My friends, for decades in the history of contemporary military aviation, there were only two rigid and unchanging ways for fighters and heavy bombers to carry and launch their surface-to-surface missiles. Either the missiles were hidden inside the internal bomb bays of strategic platforms, or they were mounted externally on pylons under the wings using standard mechanical hooks. These two traditional methods remain highly effective in the theater of operations, but they always run into an insurmountable physical limit. The exact number of missiles that a given airframe can carry on a single mission and the number of aircraft available to be deployed in a sortie. But now in 2026, the Pentagon has completely reversed this industrial equation, developing a system that promises to drastically expand the missile-carrying fleet, capable of launching cruise missiles without the need to build a single new bomber or make expensive modifications to existing technology. My friends, we are witnessing the operational activation of the project that has become the greatest strategic nightmare for Beijing's planners in the Indo-Pacific. A technology based on the concept of palletized munitions, officially known from now on as the Dragon Cart program. Look at the level of destruction, the tactical option we're dealing with here. Because this engineering instantly transforms heavy cargo planes into long-range attack platforms, using the rear cargo ramps to launch smart pallets that release consecutive waves of missiles while in flight. This, my friends, changes everything. Because we've entered the era that bunker defense analysts call the palletized Trojan horse, a doctrine that converts the peaceful fleet from logistical transport into mass saturation arsenals, eliminating budget constraints and breaking the access denial architecture. Built by China through a visual illusion that confuses enemy radars in the Far East. But before I tell you every detail of this project, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and like the video because it takes a lot of work to make. The idea of dropping weapons from cargo planes is not an entirely new concept in military history. There are records going back to the bombing of Warsaw in 1940 when German forces adapted Junkers Ju-52 transport planes as makeshift auxiliary bombers. The Americans themselves used C-130 cargo planes to drop the massive BLU-82 Daisy Cutter bomb in the Vietnam War, and repeated the tactic in the Iraq War in 1991, culminating in the deployment of the destructive GBU-4 3B Moab in the mountains of Afghanistan. But forget the past. In the current scenario against China, using this old tactic of gravity bombing would be certain suicide. And this is exactly where engineering breaks traditional logic. The tests, which began in the 1970s, like the historic launch of the Minuteman intercontinental ballistic missile, 17 meters long and 40 tons ejected from the rear of a C-5A Galaxy. In 1974, they evolved into the concept of a cruise missile carrier, based on the Boeing 747-200 chassis, designed to eject up to 100 AGM-86 ALCM missiles through rotary launchers on the side of the chassis. This project from the 80s was shelved, but the seed of using pallets, trays stabilized by parachutes remained. It was tested by graduate students at the Air Force Institute of Technology in 2003, giving rise to the Rapid Dragon project in 2019. The system was validated at the White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico between 2021 and 2022 using C-17A and EC-130SJ aircraft. And on December 16, 2021, the first real test over the Gulf of Mexico proved the viability of the system, when the MC-130J received dynamic target data sent by a remote command node while in flight. It transferred the coordinates to the stealth missile AGM-158B JASSM-ER and released the pallet by parachute, resulting in the total destruction of a large naval target. And less than a year later, in November 2022, during Exercise Atreus in Norway, this capability was demonstrated on European soil, firing an armed JASSM from the Andoya Space Test Range, consolidating the maturation of a technology that has just crossed the boundary of the laboratories. But don't expect much, because the most important part you haven't seen yet, the schedule is aggressive. In April 2026, the Air Force Life Cycle Management Center officially ended the experimental phase and established the Dragon Cart as an official record program, guaranteeing long-term budget allocation and full integration into the Pentagon's war plans. And in May 2026, the program began its transition phase for immediate operational implementation through rapid acquisition contracts with a field focus for the following year. According to Kent Miller, the chief architect of the project, the Dragon Cart is the materialization of a fully digitized system. Conceived entirely within Model-Based Systems Engineering, MBSE, computational models, this architecture eliminates the traditional stacks of reports and uses integrated, machine-readable data models as the single source of technical truth. The result of this at industrial speed is dramatic. If a new weapon requires a slightly longer launch module, the engineers modify the design on the computer screen. They run the vector analysis of load distribution and in seconds send the digital file directly to the automated machines of the production suppliers, eliminating years of government bureaucracy. And the system operates like a smart disposable box equipped with a fire control interface that receives network data and programs missiles before launch. These palletized launch modules use the same roller and conveyor belt systems that already exist throughout the Air Mobility Command's transport fleet. Here's what happens in the air. The pallet slides down the rear ramp of a regular cargo plane, deploys a set of stabilization parachutes, and while floating in the atmosphere, it begins to sequentially launch cruise missiles in mid-air. The launch boxes are modular and configurable, with their payload capacity ranging from 4 up to 40 or 45 AGM missiles. 158B turning the logistics transport into an invisible vector for aerial saturation. But now comes the most important part. The activation of the palletized Trojan horse was accelerated by a confidential intelligence report that triggered the alarm about the imminent risk of ammunition shortages in American strategic arsenals. The Air Force designed the system to carry the family of missiles developed by Lockheed Martin, starting with the AGM-158B, a stealth land attack weapon with a range of over 925 kilometers, including the B-2 variant with stealth coating, enhanced resilience against electronic warfare. In addition to the AGM-158C LRASM anti-ship missile, which carries autonomous infrared and radio frequency sensors to hunt naval targets at sea. And the future JASSM-XR, designed to reach an impressive range of 1,600 kilometers. But just look at the level of Western industrial collapse. These high-tech weapons have prohibitive costs and extremely slow manufacturing rates. The total planned production for the JASSM-R Variant B is only 3,232 units. To supply the United States and allies like Japan, the Netherlands, Poland, Finland, Germany, and Austria, with a unit cost that ranges between $1 million and $1.6 million. The B-2 model requires a similar expenditure for a total batch of 4,656 units. While the LRASM anti-ship missile breaks the financial ceiling, reaching $3,500 per unit due to its advanced autonomous guidance system. And the defense industry maintained a production rate of only 400 to 500 units per year for all variants. And even with the introduction of a new automated factory of 20,900 square meters with robotic painting lines, to raise the delivery to 1,000 missiles per year, the rate of consumption in real combat wipes out these stocks in just a few days. The confidential data from Operation Epic Fury, the intensive bombing campaign carried out by the United States against Iranian positions, revealed that in just 4 weeks of strain on the American military machine, it consumed 45% of its entire stock of precision missiles, half of its THAAD interceptors, almost half of the inventory of Patriot PAC-3 defense missiles, 30% of its Tomahawk missiles, and more than 20% of its long-range JASSM missiles. Replenishing these stocks will require years of industrial effort. leaving the Pentagon critically exposed if geopolitical tensions trigger a simultaneous outbreak of hostilities in the Taiwan Strait. That's why the mobilization of the Palletized Trojan horse completely changes the dynamics of the Indo-Pacific. Because the traditional aerial platforms of the American fleet suffer from severe internal space limitations. In air superiority missions, 5th generation fighter F-22 Raptor can only carry 8 missiles in total, 6 medium-range air-to-air missiles, AIM, 120 AMRAAM, and 2 short-range Sidewinder missiles. The F-35 Lightning II fighter is even more limited, carrying only 4 AMRAAM missiles in its internal bays to preserve maximum stealth, a mark that the new Sidekick rack tries to expand to 6 units, but which requires the installation of short-range weapons on external pylons under the wings, destroying the stealth signature of the airframe. Even heavy strategic bombers face operational physical limits given the vastness of the country. Pacific, since B-52 carries 20 JASSM missiles with 8 internal and 12 external, or 24 units of the ER or LRASM variants internally, while the B-1B Lancer accommodates 24 missiles internally, with plans to expand the payload to 36 missiles through new external pylons. But the reality for the forces is as follows. The Pentagon has only 75 B-52 bombers and 45 or 46 B-1B Lancer units in active service at all its bases. The Dragon Cart project blows up this inventory limitation by turning hundreds of ordinary logistical cargo planes into heavy bombers under certain circumstances without changing the primary functions of the airframes. The United States keeps a monumental fleet on standby, composed of 222 units of the C-17A Globemaster III aircraft, 151 C-130J Super Hercules, 126 C-130H Hercules, and 57 units of the MC-130J, and 39 HC jets. The United States also keeps units of the massive C-5M Super Galaxy on standby, strictly for long-range strategic transport due to the wear on their remaining flight hours. And what happens in the planning of a massive sortie is overwhelming. A single regular C-130 aircraft can launch 12 JASSM cruise missiles from a safe distance of 1,000 to 1,900 kilometers from the target, using only 2 pallets of the system, while the huge C-17A can accommodate 4 pallets with 9 missiles each, unleashing a wave of 36 cruise missiles with warheads of almost 500 kilograms in a single rear cargo drop. And to supply this army of improvised bombers, without depleting the few million-dollar missile units, the Pentagon launched a massive industrial acceleration strategy, applying the technique of direct scale injection by supplier. Andrew delivers the Barracuda 500M. This means 1,000 extra missiles per year saturating Beijing's defenses with 45-kilogram warheads launched from 800 kilometers away. Leidos supplies the Black Arrow, designated as AGM-190A. At the end of the line, there are 3,000 units deployed to break through short-range radars, with 90-kilogram warheads and tested ranges of 740 kilometers, built using modular modeling and 3-dimensional printing to crush costs. And the practical result is a violent industrial acceleration that delivers long-range missiles with a range of over 1,600 kilometers in its extended variant. This rearmament mechanism includes the Rust Dagger model, originally built for the friction theaters of Eastern Europe and now integrated into the domestic portfolio of the Arrow program. That's runway. The supply of 226-kilogram projectiles with penetration capability at distances of up to 450 kilometers. The entire ecosystem works in parallel with the low-cost containerized missile program, the LCCM. Many, the new mixing.
2026 para
into the 10,000 missiles in 3 years together with Zon Sim. in addition to the contracts with Castellian to manufacture the Blackbird hypersonic missiles. And the impact of the Blackbird is to deliver 80% of the entire capacity of fourth-generation precision missiles at a fraction of the cost price. It has a range of 800 kilometers, placing it at the forefront of operational theaters. Operating alongside Boeing's new JDAM-ER cruise missiles, capable of delivering 226-kilogram warheads at a distance of 603 kilometers from the target. And all of this, my friends, is because the network engineering of Dragoncart has completely overturned the Chinese Navy's air defense calculations by introducing an unsolvable strategic ambiguity in the Indo-Pacific. The aerial system of his historic name, from the ancient besieged Africa of 10th century China. The salvo-firing cart, known as Di Jilong Chi, designed to saturate the enemy from safe distances. But today, it serves as the distribution vector for American distributed warfare. When Beijing's radar operators detect a group of C-17 or C-130 planes approaching on their monitoring screens, operational planners no longer have the ability to know whether those transport aircraft are carrying routine supplies and logistical vehicles to Allied bases, or if they're ready to open the rear ramp and drop dozens of people. Stealth cruise missiles mixed with swarms of cheap weapons from the LCCM program. The low-cost weapons are launched to saturate and exhaust the interceptors of China's sophisticated anti-access area denial networks, while the high-end stealth missiles take advantage of the temporary blindness of electronic systems to hunt for high-value strategic targets, such as command ships and communication centers. The entire logistics fleet of the West and the 63 Allied countries operating C-130 planes was instantly transformed into a long-range strategic strike force, without the need to spend billions of dollars on structural modifications. In the face of this profound reconfiguration of distributed air-naval warfare, the technical verdict on this saturation engineering remains on the table in the bunker. On one hand, the ability to convert regular aircraft into mass attack vectors represents a cheap and devastating tactical saturation that renders billion-dollar investments in enemy defenses useless. On the other hand, the need to create swarms of cheap weapons, driven by the severe depletion of top-tier precision ammunition stocks, exposes a worrying industrial exhaustion that the West is trying to fix in a hurry before a real test of strength. Now, write your keyword down below in the video comments: saturation or exhaustion. Which of these options? I will analyze each technical position to separate the real analysts from the armchair guessers. The international scenario has changed, and high-security decisions have already crossed the point of no return behind the scenes of industrial and defense power. But the truth is not incredible. What the traditional communication networks give you in regular news broadcasts is just the shell of highly filtered and simplified reports for mass consumption. For those who seek to understand the deeper reality of defense engineering, the movements of deterrence geopolitics, and to have access to the raw dossiers, before the global system faces the next industrial bottleneck, open and monitored channels are no longer safe environments. That's why we maintain our intelligence bunker. This is not a commercial digital entertainment space, but a security and geopolitical analysis solution where more than 3,000 elite analysts dissect military data in real time. Far from the filters of institutional censorship, access is available via the QR code that appears on your screen, in the first pinned link in the comments, and also in the video description. Secure your strategic spot in this elite community before registration closes. And if your main goal is to protect the integrity of your home and shield your family against the social engineering that tries to erode the traditional values of our culture, check out our exclusive channel for series and movies. Yes, my friends, enough of wasting hours looking for something good to watch. We've created a spot on curation. Just click, watch, and enjoy your time. Imagine wasting hours just to end up choosing something that suddenly has that woke culture and all that whining that gets on your nerves and shapes your kids' minds. So here's our series and movies channel. Enjoy it wisely. Subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and like the video to help the channel keep growing. We already have over 350,000 subscribers here in this YouTube community. And we're going to get there too, and I'm counting on you. Now, shield your mind. I'm Shimon Oliveira, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.